proceedings, the chair may order the person to withdraw from the meeting, and if the person does not withdraw, the chair may authorize a constable or other officer to remove the person from the meeting. So with that in mind, we can move forward. Usually I ask our clerk to do the roll call of commissioners present. In his absence, I'll just continue on with that roll. So please speak to your name being called as I call you out in no particular order, just to say present. Philippe Simon.
Present.
Thank you. Empress Benu.
Present.
Thank you. Irene Woods.
Present.
Thank you. Mackenzie Siraj.
Present.
Thank you. And Daniel Yalowitz as chair. I am present. Currently, we are missing our sixth member, Wid Perry, who is the clerk. I'm hopeful that he'll be joining us at some point. I did not have word from him that he would not be attending. Okay, and again, I'm thankful to see a few guests with us this evening, and we welcome your questions, your input, your participation as we move through the agenda, which was posted a week ago on the City of Greenfield website, and also it was sent as well directly to all of the current commissioners. So at this point, I would like to ask if any commissioners have any announcements to share. I have a few, but I'd like others, if they have some, to put them forth at this point. Any announcements on upcoming events or happenings that you'd like to share with us and our guests and visitors? Okay. Following the 7 seconds of silence rule, I'll just add a few.
I'm sorry, Daniel, I have my hand raised. I'm sorry.
Oh, there you are. Okay, you moved on my screen. I apologize. Empress, please.
No problem. I would just like to take this opportunity just to remind everybody that the Goods Pop-Up Shop is open and running till December 31st. We've had some great vendors in there. Right now, we have Shay's World, who is going to be there for the week. She's featuring a lot of vintage clothing from the 70s and 80s. And after that, we're working to have a craft fair. And in December, the first week of December, December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, can you believe we're already talking about December? We're planning a holiday party, and Carefree Cakery, who I believe almost everybody in Greenfield has some of her goodies in town, she will be coming back. Erin, specifically, she will be coming back in December. So if you want to place your orders for special cakes, or if you just want to stop by the shop, she will be there in the middle of the month. And from the 15th to the 31st, Amy, and she's from Northampton, and she does a lot of African design, and she also has a fitness class. So we have a couple good things to end off the new year at the pop-up shop. So if you have not come by, it's at 357 Main Street, right next to Greenfield Cinemas. So it's a great look for downtown Greenfield, and we are looking to continue this partnership through next year. Thank you.
Wonderful news. Can you give us some information about open hours and days, just so folks know?
Yes. So this week, it's 11 to 7. The vendors actually pick their own days and hours of operation, but this week I can tell you that it is 11 to 7 that she will be open. It's a family-run business. So it's her mother, and her grandmother who is there. Like I said, she has some really good stuff in there. So like I said, if you have, last week was really fun. We had a craft fair in there from Biso Box, and there was young people, all kind of talented young entrepreneurs who's basically starting off their businesses. Camilla's doing a great job. We've had Rainbow Rack in there. I seen Roxanne, she bought one of her shirts. So we've had a lot of great people in there. And like I said, it's a good look for the community because this is all talent from our wonderful community. So like I said, if you have not been there, make sure you stop by before the end of the year just to pop in and just say hello and just see the great things that the city of Greenfield has done, because this is definitely a grant that came through the city of Greenfield, and they passed it on to Greenfield Community College, and I work with them. So kudos to the city of Greenfield for doing a great thing. So thank you.
What a great way to start us off with that upbeat information. Fabulous. I have two other things that have come through to me. One is a learning community session on genocide. This is through the town of Orange, Quabbin Mediation, and it takes place on Wednesday, December 7th from 7 to 9 p.m. It's a virtual training, 2-hour lesson and training on through Quabbin Mediation on genocide. And it's a learning session to increase our awareness, broaden our understandings, and instill a sense of urgency to explore what we can do as practitioners to interrupt these harms. This is through Training Active Bystanders, which is based in Orange. So again, Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. If anyone would like a link, you can certainly get in touch with me, and I'll put you in touch with the folks at Quabbin Mediation. It is quabbinmediation.org, O-R-G. And also another two events locally, Indigenous Voices, a River Walk and River Talk series with David Brule of the Nullumbenka Project. This comes to me through our friends in Deerfield and Sunderland. They're co-sponsoring these two events. The first one is Indigenous Stories Along the River. This takes place on November 19th from 2 to 2:30 p.m., meeting at the Sunderland Public Library parking lot, a rain date of November 26th. And the second is an event at the Sunderland Public Library, December 3rd from 6:30 to 8 p.m., Indigenous Voices, Lifeways, Loss and Renewal in the Connecticut River Valley. So this is through the Deerfield Inclusion Group and the Sunderland Human Rights Task Force. They are combining their resources and their talents to bring these two events to the public, and have asked me to just notify folks here about those two events. Anything else to be shared before we move on with the agenda? Any other announcements?
Yes, I have one more announcement. I'll put my hand down. I just want to let everybody know that last year Juneteenth was this year Juneteenth was phenomenal, and once again, thank you to the city, thank you to the HRC and our wonderful community for supporting what we did. I will let everybody know that I'm going to start planning in January to give us more time to get together. So if anybody would like to be involved, please contact me. I'm looking as far as to looking into some funding and things like that, and trying to see how much networking that I can get done before June. So like I said, if anybody would like to get together with me and so we could plan this wonderful event for next year, please feel free to contact me via email. If you don't know, my email is empressbanu777@gmail.com. I'm very easy to find. That's it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, you really got us started in a great way this past June, and glad you're going to continue to shepherd that forward. Okay, so I'd like to direct our attention, this is particularly for the commissioners, to our minutes from our last meeting that took place on Monday, October 17th, 2022. I believe that our clerk, Wood Perry, sent out the minutes to all of the commissioners, and what I'd like to do is to ask for approval of those minutes. First, are there any suggestions or emendations that any commissioner would want to make on those minutes? Okay, 7-second rule is applicable once again. And so now I'd like to entertain a motion, if it's forthcoming, to both move this forward and for a second so that we can hopefully approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, well, no one made the motion, so before you could second it.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, well, thank you. It's been motioned and seconded. Of the 5 commissioners, again, I just would like to hear your votes since we need to do that since we're on Zoom. Okay, Philippe, how do you vote on the minutes for October?
Yes.
Okay, Empress?
Yes.
Mackenzie?
Yes.
Irene?
Yes.
Yes. And Daniel and I approve the minutes as well, so that passes unanimously. The minutes for October 17th. And now I'd like to turn to our Director of Communications for Greenfield, Aaron. And normally this is a time when you can give us any updates and information that will help to inform our meeting. Is there anything you'd like to share?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since we have the mayor herself with us this evening, I'm going to turn things over to her if there are no objections.
Fair enough. Okay.
Well, all right then.
Yes, you're with us tonight.
Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to be here at last, a Monday night when I can be on with you folks. I hope to be able to do that more often, but I just never know for sure. So I'm just here mostly to say hello and to be a part of your meeting for a little while. I did want to address the Lunt Silversmith situation just a bit. I sent everyone, well, first of all, I just want to say we all have the same goal, and what we want in the city of Greenfield for that goal to be is to get this building cleaned up to a standard that is acceptable to the DEP, to ourselves, and to EPA if they need to be involved. So as you can tell by the timeline that I sent you today, this has been an ongoing issue for the city of Greenfield since 2005, well before my time. Not, I was on the planning board at the time, but well before my time as mayor, going back to Chris Forgy, Mayor Forgy, the first mayor of Greenfield. It is a timeline of health department records that we put together last year just to kind of help us, when I say we in the mayor's office, help us determine what the history of this is. And this is well before the city took over the project. So it's 3 mayors now that have been dealing with this, and we really don't know how much longer it will go on. But there seems to be a narrative out there in the community that the city of Greenfield has not done anything. And I think you can see from this timeline that the city of Greenfield has been involved in this project for a number of years now, since 2005. And is this a 100% complete record of everything? No. It is the health department's records. We have some other records that can be added to this timeline. And as I mentioned in my email, we will begin to compile from 11/18/21. 11/18/21 is the last entry on this. Going forward as soon as we can get it updated. But it's mostly just to let you know that we've been involved in this for a number of years, going back to when the Lunt family owned the building and was put on notice by basically the EPA. So, as I said, we all have the same goal, and we are going to work towards cleaning this property up and getting it as clean as it can possibly be. It took a century and a half of pollution to get us here. and it's going to take, hopefully not another century to get it clean. We have a lot smarter people and a lot more science behind how to do that these days. But things that happened a long time ago take a long time to clean up, and that's not unusual for many, many, many buildings of this nature throughout the Commonwealth. So that's basically all I wanted to say tonight, and then to just sit back and be a part of your meeting for a little while longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. And I do want to say that we do allow for open comment. I see your hand, Empress, and anyone else who would like to speak to this particular topic and issue. So, Empress, you can speak first, please.
Yes. I just, because everybody, I'm very open as far as, I've been here probably like almost 3 years. So where exactly is this property at?
Oh, it's on Federal Street. If you know where the Sandry station, there's a couple of them on Federal Street. So the Sandry station, that is just beyond, let me think now, what's the best way to
Tire warehouse?
Yeah. It's across from McDonald's, across from the Sandry station. It's midway on Federal Street from, say, Main Street to Silver Street. It's a big, large building. It was in terrible disarray for a number of years. Well, for a long time, it was a functioning silver factory. It produced high-end silver up through the early 2000s, but it is, and employed many people. But then for a few years after that, until the city took it over, it was a very derelict property. It's the result of, we received it as a result of a bankruptcy.
Okay, so basically, so what is the goal here? So is the goal to have it cleaned up? Is the goal to bring in another business?
It is filled right now with Behavioral Health Network as a drug rehabilitation facility, and CSO for a similar purpose. And there is still a section of it that is vacant that for now is not occupied by anyone. The goal is to clean it up environmentally. It has a lot of pollution in it. And it is currently being leased by a company that has tenants, well, first of all, is a company that specializes in having drug rehabilitation businesses within buildings that they, at this point, lease in this case, and would someday like to own. But in the meantime, in order for them to do that, they have to be responsible under the terms of the lease for cleaning it up. And that lease was entered into by Mayor William Martin.
Thank you, Roxanne. So just making sure I understand. So this is already, somebody else owns the lease to the building.
The city owns the building, it's leasing it to another company.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions, inputs from folks who are here with us tonight on this topic? Let me recognize Glenn Ayers. If you'd like to speak, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much. And I know this is further on in the agenda, and I'm not sure if that's what we're talking about now, or if the mayor is still going to continue with any reports that she's giving.
No, I don't have any other reports, if that's what you're wondering.
Okay. Right. Well,
go ahead, Glenn, since we're on this now.
Okay.
I just want to move it up in the agenda since it makes sense in this context.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the commissioners very much, especially Mackenzie, for the letter that was published in the Recorder. It was very thoughtful, very concise, very well written, and very much appreciated by the community. So thank you for that. I just want to give a very, very brief update. I know that you received a timeline from the mayor. I think I have seen that previously, but I'll pick up from December of 2021 when I think it was 36 residents of the city submitted the public involvement plan petition to DEP, which triggered the designation of the Lunt site as a public involvement plan site. And that was automatic according to the regulations. There's no determination that needs to be made. It's an automatic designation. But as a result of that becoming the site, becoming a public involvement plan site, that triggered or precipitated DEP conducting a full audit of the cleanup process. And their audit was completed on May 27th of this year, 22. And at that time, they found that what's called the comprehensive site assessment was very deficient. That had been submitted 2 years earlier and called for no further cleanup of the site and basically abandoning the contaminated groundwater to allow it to continue to spread into the neighborhood. And DEP found that that did not comply with the intent of the regulations, the state cleanup regulations, and they did not accept the proposed what's called the permanent solution, which was just to leave the site as is contaminated. So that audit also resulted in the city being issued a notice of noncompliance with deadlines for when they had to complete a revised site assessment, looking for the sources of contamination and delineating the extent of the contamination, especially the contamination that has moved off-site into the community. And so that was something that was supposed to be responded to by the city. Instead, the developer, which is the name for the developer that has redeveloped the buildings, is called 401 Liberty Street, LLC. The developer has their own licensed site professional who has been working on this site for a number of years. And that licensed site professional working for the developer submitted a response to the city's notice of noncompliance. And that was submitted on 7/22. Then the next, I think, thing of note was that on October 18th, the PIP group submitted a technical assistance grant to DEP requesting $20,000 to hire an independent LSP.
Glenn, can you just define what the PIP group is so people know that?
The Public Involvement Plan group. So that it is currently, this is the petition from residents. It's currently 115 people now in the community have signed onto the PIP group. So that petition was submitted to DEP. We will find out sometime around the end of the year if we get the $20,000 to hire an independent LSP. But I just do want to point out that the city itself has not had an LSP working on this project since prior to 2013. There has been no LSP working on behalf of the community, working with the Board of Health, and working with the neighborhood. And that is why we submitted the grant application. Now, just very recently, on November 8th, the DEP issued a response to the what's called scope of works, the phase 2 conceptual scope of works that was submitted to DEP by the developer's licensed site professional, and DEP noted that they will require air quality monitoring in 9 houses in the Lunt neighborhood to the south of the Lunt property. The LSP for the developer proposed sampling in 2 buildings, 2 residences. These are off-site residences on Kenwood Street, where TCE had already been detected several years ago. So DEP said, no, that's not good enough. You'll need to sample in at least 9 total residences that are currently occupied. And then if they find TCE, they will probably expand the sampling radius, because the groundwater continues to migrate off the site. The TCE, trichloroethylene contaminated groundwater, continues to migrate off the site into the adjacent neighborhood to the southwest of the property. So that I think brings us up to the present. And I would like to note also that DEP said that the remaining parts of the audit will be addressed in future letters that they will be submitting to the city. And all of this goes to the city, not to the developer. It is the city's responsibility. And all of this, all of these additional points will come in future letters to the city, basically ordering the city to do certain things. This letter on November 8th just had to do with indoor air quality in the down gradient, the adjacent neighborhood. And there are several other issues that have not been addressed adequately, such as the TCE contaminated groundwater, the contamination of that groundwater, the migration of it off-site, and the continuing discharge of contamination into the storm drain system, which further spreads the contamination throughout other parts of the city until the discharge ultimately meets the Green River about 1.5 miles away. So all of those things are still to be addressed by DEP. We expect that they will address them shortly, but the indication from the air quality monitoring letter, I think, is very positive in that DEP is taking this very seriously, and they will be issuing additional orders. And I just want to come back to the point that it would be very helpful for everyone in the neighborhood there, and actually everyone in the city, especially it would be for the Greenfield entity itself, the Greenfield Corporation, the city as an entity, to have an independent LSP, because of the potential liability in this situation is very high. As you pointed out in your letter that was in the recorder, this is an issue of bodily integrity, the right to bodily integrity, and that is a civil right. And by the city not employing an LSP since 2013, that opens up the city, I believe, to a tremendous civil rights lawsuit. And I'll be quiet here. I'm sure the mayor will disagree with most of what I've said, but I gave you the actual factual dates of everything. At least those are not in dispute. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn. I think a number of us are still learning about the situation as it's evolving. And as the mayor pointed out, it's got about 17 years of history that we're aware of. And I want to allow the mayor to respond to what you shared with us, or to bring us to the next place of our understanding. So if you would, please, Roxanne.
I'm happy to do that. Thank you, Daniel. I'm not here to argue with anyone. As I said, we all share the same goal. However, Mr. Ayers has an interesting way of putting factual information. So just to be clear, as I have said earlier, the city has been involved in this in one capacity or another for a number of years now. And I have taken over from Mayor Martin a lease that is done by the city. So the city and the lessee are partners in this cleanup, in the sense that we are in it together. The lease that we have states that the lessor will be, the lessee will be responsible for the cleanup. So the OTO, O'Reilly, Talbot, and Oken, contrary to what I think Mr. Ayers said, if I'm tracking what he said, has been involved in this project since 2011. So the city has had the same person working on their behalf since 2011. When the lease was assigned, OTO remained as the licensed site professional, which is LSP. And we work together. That is no surprise to the DEP. They understand, because they do this all over the Commonwealth, that this is a process, and it is a lengthy process. And with regard to an independent LSP by the city, first of all, as I said, we are in this together with the lessee, 401 Liberty Street. The people that are not requesting an independent LSP are the DEP. They are used to working with this LSP. They've been with this LSP from quite a few years now. And this is a process. It goes through its phases. And one of those phases, as Mr. Ayers pointed out, was the PIP. And that is fine. We accepted the PIP with, open arms. It is their right, and it's the right of citizens at some point to enter into some involvement in projects of this nature. And we have been working with them to go forward, as has the LSP. I'm sorry, well, both the LSP and the lessee, following all the processes that are outlined in the PIP process. So Mr. Ayers is correct. We are up to date at this point with some interest in by the DEP in sampling other houses in the area. But if you'll read your timeline, I think you'll see that those samples that were taken back in 2013 and so forth, the detection was minimal to their standards at the time. Things change. Things could definitely have changed with regard to this. So what I'm saying is this is a process. We are involved in the process. I speak nearly weekly with someone involved in either from 401 Liberty Street, OTO, our lawyer, Attorney Quinn, quite frequently during the course of a month as to where we're at. So, and including Mr. Ziegler, John Ziegler, the regional person from the DEP. So I was happy to see that he's requesting additional sampling, and I believe there was an article in the Recorder that sampling will be followed. The order to sample will be followed. I will point out that back in 2020, OTO That's the environmental engineering company that the LSP works for, requested of the DEP that they do an audit in 2020. So that is 2 years and a couple of months, almost 3. They refused to do it at the time. So we'd be further along in this process, I think, if DEP itself had not refused to do it. So for a while there, we lost. I won't say we lost ground. There is environmental cleanup on a daily basis that's going on with regard to one of the buildings in which there's a air quality sampling system, a air cleaning system that is introduced and has been there for a few years now. So I just ask people to be patient with this process because it is a lengthy process. It could be possibly another year before we get to anywhere near the end of this process, just because it does take some time to do all the testing, to get all the reports back. DEP is not real quick when they, which is a good thing because they're examining the information that they have. So we hope to see the remainder of the reports from them, as they have said to me, within a few weeks, and that was at least 2 weeks ago. So the remainder of the reports for this most recent audit, I would hope would come to us in the next, by the end of the year. And I think those are my points. As I say, I'm just asking for some patience and some understanding about the level of involvement that this takes on behalf of all parties involved. It's not an overnight process.
Thank you, Mayor Wiedegardner. I'd like to just add, if I might, I'm in receipt, have a copy of the letter that was sent by John Ziegler of the DEP, dated November 8th, 2022, addressed to you, Mayor Wiedegardner, saying in the second paragraph, by November 22nd, 2022, the city must demonstrate to Mass DEP that it has requested access to the following 9 properties for completing an indoor air evaluation. 4 of those properties are on Kenwood Street. 5 of those properties are on Forest Avenue. November 22nd is next week.
Yes.
Next Wednesday, to be sure. And then the letter continues, and I just share this for the sake of public information. Upon obtaining property access, indoor ash samples must be collected in accordance with Mass DEP's vapor intrusion guidance document, which is available online. By December 30th, 2022, indoor air sampling results must be submitted to the department. Resampling and/or inclusion of additional properties may be required by the department based on those results and other assessments to be conducted. So that's just to fill out the information that both Glenn has shared and the mayor as well. And I think it's good to know that folks are monitoring this and that it's apparently moving forward as it needs to. And I would just say on behalf of the GHRC that we do have a vested interest, as should all citizens in Greenfield, in making sure that what Mass DEP is asking for is complied with in a timely manner. And our letter to the paper last week was simply an indication that we want to assure ourselves as citizens and constituents that things move forward for the safety and benefit of all residents, particularly those in the abutting area. So I just wanted to fill that in. Glenn, do you have a comment? And then we can move on, please. Glenn? You can unsilent yourself. Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thanks. I just wanted to add one more date to the timeline, and that was this past summer on June 15th. the city council passed a resolution unanimously, except for one abstention for recusal. But the entire city council passed a resolution expressing a lack of confidence in OTO to continue to be involved in the LUNT, and especially to stop claiming that they were acting on behalf of the city. And that was a very strongly worded resolution. Essentially, it was the closest thing that the city could come to as far as firing the LSP. And that resolution should have indicated strongly that the city was unhappy with the work that the LSP had been doing on behalf of the developer. And the city council also indicated, several members wrote into the paper saying that they would support a allocation if the mayor brought forward a request for funding. They would support an allocation of $15,000 or $20,000 to hire an independent LSP. Now that was back this summer, but for whatever reason, that request to the city council never went forward. And in the meantime, here we are with, according to the PIP group, according to the residents in the Lunt neighborhood, we have no representation by an expert trained to understand what's happening at this hazardous waste site. And so that's why the PIP group submitted a request for $20,000 to the DEP for a technical assistance grant. But we were hoping that the city would hire an independent LSP in the meantime, because we won't be getting any funding. If we get allocated that money, we won't be getting that until sometime in the spring. So there's 8 or 9 months during which time an LSP could have been working on behalf of the residents of the neighborhood. And we currently have, like I said, an LSP who works entirely, in my opinion, entirely in the interests of the developer. And those interests are much different than the interests both of the city and of the residents who are being contaminated by the site. And there is a certain conflict of interest for someone like a lawyer to try to represent both a landlord and a tenant in court in a landlord-tenant dispute. And that's essentially the same situation we have here, where we have an LSP who is working for and paid by the developer, but is pretending to submit things on behalf of the city. And I don't accept that. And it's not DEP that should make some kind of determination. It's really sort of what's called a sniff test. And it just doesn't smell right. And it should be seen as something that, I'm sorry, it's just not kosher. And, you know, to use a phrase, and I think that we need to have an independent LSP. There have been many letters written into the recorder about that. And I guess if we have to wait until the spring, then we'll finally have one. But it's just very unfortunate that the city council can vote non-confidence in an LSP and indicate that they will support a request for funding, and to not have that come forward is deeply, deeply troubling. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments on this from anyone else? My thought is simply that this will remain on our agenda because there are deadlines coming up in November and December as per the letter, and that we want to stay attuned to this. It's kind of our obligation given our mission and our vision. And I hope, Mayor Wiedegartner, that you'll be able to keep us updated as well. I think that that's important, that we get to hear from the city as an entity, as well as from individuals and residents, because I think this information is quite important as we move forward.
I'm happy to do that. As I said, Mr. Ayers is interested in creating enemies here, but there are no enemies. There are people working together to get this building cleaned up.
Okay, well, thank you. And again,
I just want to say I resent being attacked in a public forum. I just don't think it's appropriate. And I've seen that written in the newspaper that, individuals who volunteer their time on behalf of the city get attacked. And I think it's wrong. I just feel like it's wrong.
okay. Well, there's no way to adjudicate this in this setting. But my hope is that opinions will be expressed and heard, and facts will inform us as we move forward. I mean, we see this. I think there's no issue that we would all say that this is a question of environmental justice, and that we want the best, both from the city's perspective and from the citizens' perspective. And I certainly hope that we'll be able to collaborate as we move forward. And so we'll look into this again next month. And Glenn and Roxanne, I hope both of you will come back to us and update us so that we can continue to learn and understand what's happening. I would like to go on with the agenda, if I may. We are up to item number 8, if you're following on the agenda. And this, just a moment of context and content here. This has to do with the fact that on November 3rd, with the help of the Greenfield Human Rights Commission, the theater, the Greenfield Garden Cinema, sponsored a showing of the film Till. And I myself was not able to be there. I was traveling from Arizona that day and did not have an opportunity to get back in time to be present. But my understanding is that there were at least a couple of commissioners present there, and perhaps 3, thank you, Wid, 3 folks were present from the commission, and I think others, including perhaps the mayor and the police chief and others who were there. And I wanted to use a few minutes of our time to review and debrief that event, just to look at that as yet another coming forward of the Human Rights Commission after years and years of passivity, moving forward into its role as an educator and an advocate of human rights in our community. And I'd just like to hear from those who were present what the experience was like. And I'm sorry that I can't add more to it, but anyone who was present, I hope you'll be able to speak. And Empress, I'll ask you to speak first, and then Philippe, I saw your hand go up as well.
I will say that I was very happy about the turnout that came out that night. I seen, I believe one of the first people I seen was the mayor and her husband. And then upon going in, I seen the chief and Deputy Chief Gordon. And it was just, everybody was there, in a real positive atmosphere, and it was real good energy. And we all walked in together. And I remember I was sitting on the end, and Chief Robbie was next to me, and Deputy Chief Gordon behind me was Penny. And it was just a sense of like, everybody was feeling the same emotions. It wasn't, divisive. You didn't feel anything like that. It's like everybody was feeling the same thing. And I just feel like that was just a great thing for all of us to come together from all different backgrounds and be able to relate to Till, and especially during that time of what that young man and his family went through. So, it was definitely great. And I definitely want to, definitely Isaac did a great job bringing that. I know one of his things was like he wanted to bring more movies like that to our city. So definitely, kudos to Isaac. But great job from the Human Rights Commission putting the word out there, and in the city for their support, and the Greenfield Police Department for their support, and City Council for their support, and just the community altogether. So, like I said, I always hate to say numbers, but it's like, me and Penny was only African Americans in the room, but we definitely all felt the same love and support and respect, and that means a lot. Coming from my background, that definitely means a lot, and I appreciated it.
Thank you, Empress. It's good to hear the positive energy that went into it and stayed with it throughout. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to their experience of being at the film and anything that happened in terms of a post-film discussion? I think it's important that we weigh in on this. Well, let me, before Whit, I see your hand. Philippe, did you put a hand up earlier as well? Would you like to say something about your experience with it?
It was a real pleasure of mine to be approached by Isaac and asked to see if the Human Rights Commission wanted to do something about the viewing of this movie, Till. And we were really happy to all work together. Empress had the column, My Turn, in the recorder. Wid was very helpful, and I sent out a press release with the help of Aaron. And so all three of us worked together really well. I was also really happy that 35 people plus showed up. I didn't count us. I just counted the other folks. 35 people, including the mayor and her husband, as Empress said, the police chief, the deputy police chief. I was extremely pleased and felt really supported by the city in doing this. We also had about 11 to 12 people who stuck around for the discussion afterwards. And that was a hard thing. This movie, for everyone, no matter what their background was, raised a lot of emotion. And it's that center point of emotion and empathy that I wanted to create after the film discussion. Not so much to analyze the movie in a filmmaker's perspective, but to be there to encounter and to maybe even heal some of the emotion that people had. And there were people weeping as they were leaving or as they were in the discussion. It was a very intense moment, and I was really happy to be part of it. And Bram Moranis won the poster in our raffle as well. So it was a really good experience. I look forward to bringing about more discussions based on the emotion and the empathy that people feel about racism and especially these heinous acts that still go on today. It's a great thing that the president and the Congress has put forth an anti-lynching act, and it's way overdue, way overdue. I can remember, even in the late 1990s, there were lynching episodes. And another good resource to follow if you're really interested in those kinds of hate crimes is the Southern Poverty Law Center, which does a really detailed report not only on all the hate groups but what they're doing when they are contacted by people who are physically injured or are harassed or their civil rights are abrogated. They will sue some of these organizations out of existence. And that's how they drove the Klan out of Kentucky and so on and so forth. So there's a lot that we can still do. There's a lot that people can get involved with, and this discussion should continue. It's a shame and it's a horror in this country when a beautiful young man like Emmett Till on a vacation, enjoying himself, becomes a fatality. So anyway, that's all in my report. And I look forward to having even more people, and especially more people of color, joining us. We did have a few in the discussion, but this is a discussion for everybody to learn from everybody. And again, thank you, Empress, for your wonderful participation, and Wid, thank you very much for your wonderful participation.
Thank you, Philippe.
You're welcome.
And Wid, you were there as well, so we would welcome whatever your thoughts and experiences were.
Yeah, there was a young person of color who stayed for the discussion. I kind of went over subtly and whispered to her, "You want to say anything?" And she shook her head no, because I thought it was interesting that the one person of color sitting there during the discussion really didn't want to participate. I don't blame her, but it was just it struck me as kind of, I don't know, want to say typical, but kind of typical that there was 8 or 9 white people there talking about racism and all that stuff. And the one person of color present really didn't feel comfortable enough to talk about it in front of other people. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Then I asked the question, was Till a historical piece or a commentary on current events? And some people said probably both. which is interesting, I thought.
Well, I want to say, even though I wasn't present, that I was very pleased to see the collaboration of this commission to come together, given that we are coming from different places, and also that so many members of the commission are within just 1 year of their membership. So, I thought that this was a good project for us. It was time limited and time focused. And my hope is, as Philippe said, that we can continue to be thought leaders and event leaders in this community, bringing activities, events. Again, I go back to Juneteenth, the articles that were written leading up to it a year ago, before Empress helped to facilitate that event. And that it's to me, it's all hands on deck. None of these would come about if it were only the work of any one person. So the collaboration and the support are critical in moving these things forward. And I really do see the GHRC as a leader in the city in bringing events like this to people's notice and to people's awareness. Yes, Empress, please.
Yes, I will say that I just want to add something there. Like I said, because I am an African American, and because I have great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents who were slaves in this country, that when it comes down to certain topics, it's not that we don't want to be involved, but you need to understand that where we're coming from is not a very comfortable place for us to talk about without a lot of emotion, and a lot of those times when topics like that are brought up, we would feel more comfortable feeling the energy around us than so much getting involved in that conversation just to see what your take is. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to lie to you. I waited up to like the last minute to submit that article because from my standpoint, it's different. There's so much emotion and even when I wrote it, you could feel the emotion in my words, and that was watered down from what it could have been. So I just don't want us to think, when these topics come up, that it's not as if people don't want to take part in those conversations, but as far as our history, that's a very painful part of our history and a very emotional part of our history. And it's almost, there's a lot of healing that needs to be done. So, and I could say, even from, like I said, from my standpoint, it was really hard for me to write that article. It was really hard for me. I felt very uncomfortable doing it. I'm not going to lie. I felt very uncomfortable doing it, because, it brought up a lot of the racism past, as far as what I've experienced, my parents' experience, my grandparents' experience, because I come up from a family where, a lot of my family grew up in the South. So a lot of my family members was lynched on trees. I might have a lot of mixing in my family because a lot of the women was raped by white men. So there's a lot of emotion that's there around a topic that's very uncomfortable for us. Not so much that we don't want to, but it's like, we have a lot of inner turmoil that we're dealing with as well. So, but I do appreciate everything that the community is doing. And I do appreciate everything that the Greenfield Human Rights Commission is doing. And it's definitely a step in the right direction, but like I said, but even me being in the position that I am, saying that I was very uncomfortable even writing something like that, so I can understand why somebody, being there and ask a question wouldn't really have anything to say, because, there's a lot of emotion there. But once again, like I said, thank you so much to Wid. You did great, and Felipe and the commission all together. I can't express it enough. I truly appreciated it. But that's just from my standpoint. I just want to just put that out there.
Thank you. Thank you. I think this is an educative process for all of us, no matter where we're coming into it from. I do see a few hands, and so again, thank you. Let's go with Wid, and then the mayor, and then Philippe, in that order.
I just wanted to respond, Empress. I hear you 100%, 1,000%. I hear you loud and clear. My dilemma was, are we ignoring this person? So for me, it was a flip side. I want to make sure to acknowledge her and let her know, hey, if you want to say something, please feel free to. And I made a small joke. I got her to laugh. But I appreciated that she didn't want to, but I wanted to make sure that she was recognized. That was my point. Make sure that she was given a chance, because people weren't really paying attention to her, which I thought was kind of odd in a way. So I just want to acknowledge her presence and let her know that if she wanted to, please speak up. And I respected her, and I supported her 100% for not speaking up. I didn't want her to put her on a spot or anything, but I wanted to make sure that she had the opportunity if she was interested.
Thank you, Wid. Thank you. Mayor, if you'd like to speak, please. You can unmute yourself.
There we go. Yep. This seems like a really good opportunity to let the Human Rights Commission know, and anyone else who's on here, that just last week we solidified a contract with two people, Tanisha Arena of Arise from Social Justice of Springfield, and Jack Patrizi of Opening Your Heart, to conduct a series of community conversations. The series will be called Dialogues Across Differences, a community conversation. There will be 3 of them. They are very well-known and very accomplished facilitators of conferences, of conversations within communities or within groups or within places of employment around a lot of different issues, whether it is gender, racism, many different issues. So starting on 11/28, they will conduct their first session, and it will be a Zoom session. Aaron just got back from his vacation, so I only mentioned this to him this morning, so bear with us while we put together the promotion and the details of how you all can take part in this. And I hope many other members of the community. So I'm asking all of you to get as many people as possible out to these events. We specifically made them online events so that it was, and I do understand that apparently snow is coming next week, so that more people can take part in them. Right now, they'll occur from 5:30 to 7:30. 11/28 is the first one. We will put that information out as soon as we have it, and then as soon as we have the Zoom link. 12/5 will be the next one, and 12/19 will be the third one. And I'm really looking forward to it. I reached out to Andrea of Asian in late summer to try to come forward with some way in which to have a community conversation about many of the issues that we have had discussions around the edges, discussions more pointedly with regard to both racism, gender, class, all of those things. So I'm looking forward to this series, and I hope many people will join.
Thank you, Mayor. Philippe, before you comment, I just want to follow up with that, and also with Empress's comment, which is that I think it's very important as a community. Part of the coming together is just about being present. It's certainly people can speak and share and speak to their hearts and their minds and their experience. And I think it's equally important and valid that people have the opportunity to listen and witness. And so it's not as important to me as a psychologist who speaks and how loud and how strong, but what's important is to maintain an opportunity for people to engage in listening and really hearing each other and trying to ascertain that our experiences may be wildly different, but that at the same time, we're all in this together, and we need to hear each other. And that's, I think, more of a skill than being able to be articulate and speaking. So my hope is that those platforms that the mayor has mentioned that have been contracted will be an opportunity for listening more than just one for speaking. Philippe, I'd like to turn to you.
Thank you.
Yep.
If I have the headphones on, I get an echo. I did this mostly not to engage and sell anti-racism to people of color. I engaged this in order to create a conversation among white folks. And it is the white folks in this country who have either gained some privilege from racism or have perpetrated it and have benefited directly from it. It is up to people like myself, I feel, with the kind of background that I've had, to engage as many white people as possible. That is the biggest part of the United States population, and that is the group that holds the most power economically. And in order to, and I feel that there are people who are on the fence, and a word or two from me perhaps could bring them in our direction. So I would love to see a more integrated audience, but that's up to people whether they want to come and see that kind of movie. It's up to them if they want to have a discussion about it. And for those who did want to have that discussion about it, I was really happy to receive them. And I do believe that that person of color that you did mention, Whit, I believe she did speak a very little bit, but did have something to say. And I felt as though she was a participant there, along with other folks who were of mixed descent as well. It's very deceptive to just judge people on the color of their skin. They could be from any kind of a background. But I am absolutely appreciative of everybody's help, and I really enjoyed doing this, and I'm going to be looking for other things to do. I'm a filmmaker. I have plenty of films that people could see that would perhaps, tweak their heart or change their mind in some way about some conceptions that are just simply wrong. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Philippe. Empress, and then if there's no one else who wants to speak on this, we'll move on to the next item. But Empress, the floor is yours.
Yes. One thing as far as I know when I did Juneteenth this year, a lot of people looked at me like I had two heads. The first thing they said, "Oh, this is Greenfield," whatever that meant, but this is Greenfield, how that's going to look in Greenfield. That's some of the feedback I got initially. And now while I'm advocating for more Black owned business in Greenfield, I still get looks sometimes as far as, do you know what you're saying in Greenfield? And I'm like, yes, I do. And I believe that Black owned business is really important in our city and in our community. And I've even went to Roxanne, and I've sat down and talked to her, and she's opened the door, and she knows exactly where I'm coming from, and she actually understands and is willing, to support that effort that I'm putting out. But one thing is that I'm putting forward, like I said, is Black owned business, because we have such a diverse community. And I was really proud, when I heard about the African store on Main Street, and I hope to see more Black owned business in our community. And I really hope that more of the community comes together and support more Black owned business owners, because words without works behind it is dead. We could talk all day. But as far as for the support, we need to support those businesses and those business owners, because when you think about it, the Black consumer has supported white-owned business from when white-owned business has started, you know, but we don't get that same support. So I'm just hoping and I'm pleading with the members of this commission and in our community that when you start to see more Black business owners opening up their doors, that we as a community come together to support them as well. You know, because we could sit and we could have meetings all day and all night, but if you know, you know, if we're not doing nothing about it, you know, it's just it's void. It has no meaning behind it. So, you know, they're coming. You know, Black-owned business owners are coming. There's a lot of things that's in plan for 2023. A lot of programs. So, like I said, you know, let's just be open-minded and be supportive of our whole community together.
Let me just interject really quickly.
Yes,
I can't
please.
believe I can get fufu in a store in Greenfield. I used to eat that with curry chicken and with my Nigerian housemate, and I've been looking for fufu. He has ingredients that we can't find anywhere else. Yes, please support that business, Benny's Market.
Okay, so I'd like to move on because now we're presenting.
Hey, Daniel?
Yes, Whit, I'm sorry.
I want to apologize. Obviously, I was having technical difficulties. I had to drive to work to get on. Did anybody take any notes in my absence, or what did I miss? I came in halfway through the mayor's talk.
That was really, I mean, other than the technical call to order, chairperson statements, roll call, and so on, I think that was the first item.
Okay.
Whit, I don't know if you were able to take minutes on that, but
I took the minutes from when I came in. So if no one else wrote anything down, we'll just go with what I have.
I think we'll go with that. You know, just
I apologize. I got my computer at home. I don't know what the hell is wrong with it, but I had to drive to work. That took 15 minutes.
I'm sorry we weren't able to get you on sooner. At any rate, what I'd like to do now is, if you're following along, December 10th, which is less than a month away at this point, is International Human Rights Day. And this is something that we've talked about as a commission for several years, whether or not to do anything, to how to make our presence known further to our community after many years of inactivity and passivity, which I alluded to earlier. And, you know, we don't have a lot of time now to think about this, but again, we don't have to put on a big show or anything for that matter. But I did want to point out to everyone here, to the six of us in particular on the commission, that this is an important day in terms of international human rights. And is there anything you can foresee putting out? The 10th of December, just for the record, is on a Saturday. And so I just wanted to open that up to see if there were any ideas that you might have thought about since you received the agenda a week or so ago. If people have had time to think about that or would like to have some time to think about that now. Yes, Whit? And then
you could rewrite your letter, Daniel, and you know add stuff that you had last year, and maybe mention a few things that happened this year locally, and you know resubmit another letter to the paper as a my turn. That you know doesn't hurt to rerun the same idea, or just you know rewrite is fine too.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's certainly one option, and I'm not a foreigner, as you all know, to writing, having published 3 books. That's not an issue. That might be one way to address the day itself. I'm going to also at the same time push a little further and see if there's anything that we would like to do as a group, whether it's an action or something else that's more collaborative. I'm happy to be asked to write another letter or to update the one I did. But Philippe, do you have a thought on that? Because your hand was up as well, and then Empress. Sure.
Yeah, I think a letter would be great. I think one year...
You can unmute yourself, Philippe.
Maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but one year we published the
Philippe,
Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the recorder, like a full page of it.
Philippe.
What was that? And I thought that that was, whoops, sorry.
Philippe, we can't hear you.
Yes, I see that now. I think a letter is
What is
great.
that?
A letter is a great idea.
Okay.
And one year I think we did, or we sought to, publishing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the back page of the record, or like a full page ad. They should let us, for Human Rights Day, write a letter and have that published. In terms of an action, we could, I don't know, demand absolute egalitarian society tomorrow. Because I think that that's where all of the issues and difficulties lie, and that's the root cause of it. And one of the things that is the least looked at. So economics. And I like the idea of the black-owned businesses because that's economic justice in a way, you know, and to support people getting their businesses and then to support their businesses is very productive in that direction. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'm glad to see people are chipping in on this. Empress and then Mackenzie.
I think that it would be nice, you know, first to have some kind of community gathering at the Pushkin, you know, and try to draw the community together. Maybe have like, you know, an open dinner, an open floor, have like a nice community dance, you know, have everybody come, you know, like a meet and greet kind of thing to get the community together. Because, you know, I think it's good, you know, to have some kind of fun gathering. It's a Saturday, it's holiday time. You know, and there's a lot of young people who could be engaged in this as well. A lot of college, we have Greenfield Community College, we could get involved, you know, different people from different walks of the background. Like I said, just have an all day meet and greet, you know, some kind of ceremony, nothing formal, really casual, you know, and just probably like have some speakers from different backgrounds who wouldn't mind coming together and talk about their experiences. You know, probably some business owners getting involved. You know, we can make it a real fun thing. You know, I think it's great as far as having something in the paper, but I think we could probably put some more energy into it. You know, because there's such, you know, there's a whole different age group of people to get involved, especially because we're trying to basically build membership in the HRC. So, I mean, I think that's something, and there's time to do it, you know, if we network and make the right connections, you know, to basically show, you know, that HRC could be fun too. So, I mean, I think that's great. You know, I mean, as far as having you hear about businesses having a meet and greet, but this could be a community-wide meet and greet and everybody coming together and enjoying each other. And like I said, it's holiday time as well. You know, just have everybody come together, no age limit, nothing like that, and just put a program together.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your positivity. We have to remember that it's less than 4 weeks away with Thanksgiving thrown in there in the midst of it all. I don't want to be a drag on that, but, you know, we have to get to work pretty quickly. But let's go ahead with other ideas that people are formulating. Mackenzie and then Irene. Go ahead, Mackenzie.
Yeah, I agree with Empress and that kind of like idea of a community meet and greet. I think like what would be lacking with a letter is one, like a letter in the recorder doesn't really reach to young folk. Really, it's only like a certain group of people who do read the paper. Also, like I think what's important for this idea of human rights, especially in local towns like Greenfield, is offering support and a promotion of local nonprofits and organizations that actively do the work of helping human rights. What's been on my mind recently a lot is this idea of women's rights and women's access to resources such as health reproductive services. So I'm thinking like if we do have some kind of community meet and greet or something that promotes the community, I think by providing resources or connecting people with resources such as Tapestry or ServiceNet, and really promoting, because I think like with the Human Rights Commission, I think like our role could be to uplift already established organizations that have really done the work and effort to help protect and uplift humans and our residents. But I do agree that a letter in the paper could be helpful as well. I think maybe some remarks about what's going on in the world today, connecting back to like this idea of women's rights, what's going on in Iran with the rights for women protests against the whole regime, and everything in regards to that situation. So I think in summary, like either through a community meet and greet or somehow in another form to promote and connect the Greenfield residents to establish resources and to reflect on current events today.
Thank you. Let's see if we can keep going with this energy. Irene, what thoughts do you have? And
I like all the ideas. They're great. And I get a little nervous with Empress thinking we can do things in 4 weeks, but well, she's proven you can. So setting that anxiety aside. But I wonder about, could we give out an award to somebody who has done a lot for human rights in Greenfield? Like could we do like some kind of award ceremony just to, sometimes you give somebody an award and they bring in another group of people that you haven't had contact with. So, I don't know if there's a way to incorporate that into some kind of festivity. Yeah.
I'm smiling. Wid is next, but I'm smiling because when I came in to the GHRC 4 years ago, and Wid, you'll remember this, that was one of the first things that was mentioned.
Oh,
the idea of, no, it's just interesting to see that recycle 4 years later. The idea of giving awards, to individuals or groups in our community. At that point, Stan Rosenberg was mentioned, among other people. Bill Martin was mentioned. Mm-hmm. It never happened, but I remember
Salvation Army captain.
Yes,
Salvation Army captain was the one that we were going to go for, but it kind of fell apart when COVID hit.
Right, which was just around that time. And Wid, you were in on that, as you and I are the long timers on this, but it's nice to see the idea that people are putting together something that will galvanize us, that we can enjoy each other's presence and company. And, really, there's not much time. But again, as you said, Irene, people can do amazing things if they're motivated. And so then it becomes a question of who can really take the lead on this within our group. Maybe get some outsiders. You don't have to be a commissioner to work on projects like this. But I'd like to see what more can happen. So let's go Wid and then Empress. Yeah.
Oh, can I just have you probably saw it went off. I lost the internet for some reason. Can you just give me a 20-second recap of what I missed after I told you, Daniel, about me doing the letter? What was just the couple of things you talked about, just I can put in the minutes?
Sure. Well,
a couple bullet points.
Well, Empress spoke about doing something perhaps at the Pushkin, an open public event for everyone that would be upbeat and as a gathering, maybe even a day-long kind of open house meet and greet. Mackenzie spoke following that. I'm just trying to provide a quick synopsis to the idea of the same thing, but adding in perhaps a focus on women's rights. And making it, more focused around human rights issues, and also opening it up to international issues, not just domestic. And then Irene spoke briefly, I think you were in on that point, about the idea of can we get something done in 4 weeks? And the track record here, at least with Empress, has been amazing things can happen quickly. So I think that kind of brings you up to date.
And when I was talking to Aaron at the city office a couple weeks ago, when I left the office, I walked down the hallway, I glanced at the wall, and there is a plaque on the wall for the HRC, and there's 2 award winners on there. I think it was like 2015 and 2013, maybe. Have you noticed that plaque on the wall, Aaron, as you walk by? Right outside your office on the right on the wall, there's a plaque for the Human Rights Commission. There's two people in the past were given HRC awards before our time, Daniel. So wow. It's not. It has been around, Irene, but you know it takes a little bit of work to nominate somebody and get it all prepared. And we were working toward that when COVID hit, and that was what kind of stopped us. But we can certainly revisit it.
All right, well, we'll take a little more time. There's a few other agenda items, but this one is very timely because we're talking next month. Empress, do you want to further the conversation a bit?
Yes. So, Irene, after what you spoke, you know, the creative juices started flowing in my head. Like, I think that's a fabulous idea that we can make a presentation, some kind of award. It could be like a certificate in a frame. And award an individual in the community who has supported human rights. And I would love to take this project on, and whoever would like to partner with me. And I know that the Human Rights Commission, we have a track record for making it happen. You know, we work well under pressure, and we can do it. And like I said, I am ready to do this. We can do this. You know, I could start making the calls tomorrow, see what needs to be done with the pushkin. I could talk to Ben, I make my, and just start connecting with people in the community, on the commission, as far as people who the commission knows, as far as people who if we could have some kind of nomination, we could probably do like a nomination or something, have a list of people, have a certain amount of votes. There's so many ways we can do this. And it seems like 4 weeks, but it's plenty enough time, when the energy's in the right place. So like I said, I would love to do this. I think it's a great way to end off the year. And we could also have like I said, an open ceremony. And also, like I said, it would be a great place to advocate for more commissioners to come on the commission. And this is a great foot that we would be putting out there, and we would be bringing in a lot of new members and a lot of new energy and a lot of attention. And I think this is a great way for us to, we've had a fabulous year, and I think we should all pat ourselves on the back. We've had a fabulous year. We've done a lot of great things for the community. So I think let's end the year with a bang. Let's do it. Let's do it.
So who's in then? I see the big smile there, and with the track record to boot, that was June. Now it's December, 6 months apart. Is there any one of the rest of us in the commission who would like to partner with Empress and basically create an event for International Human Rights Day? Is there anyone who's got the time, the energy, and the wherewithal?
I'm happy to help Empress,
Fabulous.
I think she'll
Thank
just
you,
on her own, but I'm happy to try to help.
And Becky, did I see your hand come up as someone who's interested now that we're seeing you? Okay, well, that sounds like that's great. I'm delighted to see that we've got 3 folks, 2 commissioners and a community member who would like to make this happen. What I'd like to say from a budgetary perspective, just so folks know, and I'll just roll something into this. We have a $300 budget for the year. And, this seems to be a very good way to use some of that money. And people should know that for the 2nd year in a row, I have sent a letter to the mayor requesting that our budget be increased to $1,000 for next year. But for right now, it's $300. And I think based on putting our trust and faith into the 3 of you, if it comes down to needing to spend some of that money, and that would have to go, I think, through Aaron to get expenditures and whatnot. But I think it would be a very good use of your time and our money. So I hope that the 3 of you will connect and make something happen. My question about if we're going to give an award or awards, how would you suggest as a group that we come together and figure out who is deserving of a Human Rights Commission award for the year 2022?
Well, that stuck in my mind because I don't think we can vote on anything outside of our meeting. Is
That's why I'm raising it down. Right, exactly.
So,
we'd have to do this.
So will we, right, so remember how before, but I know that people was away during, I forgot who was, but maybe we could have like a special meeting, nomination meeting, and basically, we present the cases of certain individuals, and basically, we have some kind of, where we vote together as a commission. It doesn't have to be a long, sprawled out 2-hour meeting, right. But basically, we send out, the names of individuals, who meet Irene and whoever is picked as far as, involved in the community, and we vote on those individuals. In the next meeting, and it'll probably be something like half an hour, and then we just go from there, and we just get a plaque made with the individual's name, and we get in contact with the recorder and let them know that this is what we're doing, and we just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest part to me is just how you have that vote. That do you set up? I mean, Daniel will know better than I, but that to me sounds like the hard part. How to just adhere to the meeting rules for the city.
Well, we certainly can, just to keep this moving forward, we certainly can do an additional meeting, so insofar as, we make that meeting, we publicize that meeting a minimum of 48 hours in advance because of the open meeting laws, but we certainly can do that. It can be a one-item meeting. We've done this in the past. The question I would have is if we go ahead and do that, we can set a date before the December meeting. But we would need to have some criteria, I think, so that it's not open-ended and we just get to recommend anyone willy-nilly. And just to give some history on this, when we did this 4 years ago, Would correct me if I'm wrong, we did say that whoever is nominated would have to be, and this is 4 years ago, would have to be a resident of Greenfield. And we struggled with things beyond that, but that was something that people back then, and it was a very different commission, were all clear on, that if we're going to give an award from the Greenfield Human Rights Commission, we want to give it to people who reside and they don't have to work here necessarily, but they have to live here. But if there are any other things, I think the criteria is really critical for us then to think about who we might want to nominate and come back together in a week or two with some ideas based on criteria.
Do you have, I'm sorry, do you have anything written up from as far as because I feel like being a resident of Greenfield is definitely something that should be there to accept an award from the Greenfield Human Rights Commission. So, but do you have anything else as far as criteria goes from like the last time this happened, or no? Or would everything be started?
I turn this back to Wid because he was clerk then as he is now.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check the minutes and see how in depth we got. As far as I remember, it was more of an informal. It was one of these things that just kept going on. Every friggin' month we would talk about it, but we never got to a point where, but I'll go back and check the minutes, and whatever I find, I'll email out to everybody. We did have some candidates. There was a rabbi and the Salvation Army person, and I think there was somebody else. But as far as criteria, beyond the Greenfield resident thing, I don't think we came up with any big game plan. It was never really solidified. We were just getting to the point where, okay, let's go, when COVID hit, and that kind of just stopped everything.
Well, let me suggest this. We know how difficult it is to add in an extra meeting, especially with Thanksgiving coming up. So I want to see if we can, this is kind of an inflection point, to see if we can pick a day or an evening or whatever, one item meeting. It can't be this week, obviously, because there's not enough time to give notice publicly for that. But do people want to recommend an evening? I think it would be great if we could do it before Thanksgiving, but if not, it would have to be immediately after. So we can think about these things and pull it together and come up with one or more awards that we want to offer. I think we can do this quickly, but we have to have a date for another meeting. And I hope that, Becky, you would be able to join us for that.
How does next Monday look?
I personally am not available next Monday, but again, we need a quorum. We don't have to have everyone available. And if 5 of us can do next Monday, I don't need to be there. I mean, I'd like to be, but is everyone else available next Monday?
I'm available for next Monday.
I'll be in a car, but I can, depending on what time on Monday,
Whit, what about you?
I can call in.
Okay, that's 2.
Yeah, but this is such a big deal. I really like to have you there, Daniel.
Thank you.
Because, it might become, if we have 3 or 4 nominees and everybody votes for one person, it's going to be kind of, we have to do kind of an elimination round and stuff like that. So the more people, and then, if it's all of us, then we can at least say we had, it was anonymous, we all agreed and that sort of stuff. There's any controversy, you can't, if someone's missing, they can't say, well, I wouldn't have supported that and that sort of stuff.
Can I suggest Tuesday as another possibility before Thanksgiving? Just because I know I'm free then, but we can go day by day. But what about
Tuesday's good? But can we have it earlier than 6 o'clock? Does it have to be 6 o'clock?
Nope.
Okay, so I mean, I can do Tuesday.
What about other people? And is 5 o'clock a better time? I mean, that's not an issue for me. It's just a question of getting a Zoom license from the city hall, but that's not that's an unusual time, so it might be available. 5 o'clock Tuesday. Anyone can't do it? Philippe, are you with us?
Yes, I'm very busy next week.
You are. Okay,
a lot of work and filming things that I have to do.
So 5 o'clock Tuesday would not work for you?
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what about if we talk about the 28th right after Thanksgiving? How about that? The Monday right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Does that work for you, Philippe?
5 o'clock still? Would that work for you, Empress? Or
5 o'clock on the 28th?
Is that yes? Everybody? All right.
Philippe, you're good for that?
I will be here. I will check.
Okay. And what about Becky? Would you be in because you're going to be on the planning group? Yeah.
That's during my regular work hours.
5 o'clock?
Yes, I work 10 to 6.
Okay. Empress, would you be open to doing it at 6 o'clock then, or is that too late for you?
Mm-hmm. No, that's fine.
6 o'clock.
Because we're only going to do it's not going to be a long meeting. It's just going to be a one agenda. So.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there anyone who cannot do 6 o'clock on the 28th? Okay. Then I will get in touch with Caitlin tomorrow and ask for a Zoom license for the 28th at 6 o'clock. And if we all put that in, that will give us 2 weeks from today to think about who and why we would nominate, who we might nominate. And we also have the option to give more than one award if we so choose. And we could look at budgeting. My hope would be maybe that Becky and Empress and Irene could meet before that possibly and try to bring some structure to it. Maybe you all could meet by phone or some other way next week. There's no open meeting law violation there since you're a minority, so to speak, of the commission. So there's no violation of OMLs on that, and you're able to speak with each other as you wish. If you're able to, then you could bring whatever you've discussed to us on the 28th, and we can really, hopefully, play it out then. So is Aaron, do you want to say something? I see a hand.
I just wanted to point out that is the date of the first community conversation that the mayor mentioned, starting at 5:30.
It was the 28th. Oof. Ouch. Of course. Thank you, Aaron.
Sorry.
Well, would someone want to take a half hour after the football game and do a Sunday afternoon for a half hour or 45 minutes? If people's work schedule is too complex, do you want to do a Sunday afternoon for an hour? I know that really affects family life, but if we do a half hour before dinner time or something, then that'll force us to leave.
This is why I brought it up now, because I knew that we were going to spend minutes.
I'm at this, Rick, I'm at this point because I know how time is, especially when you're trying to plan an event. I'm basically open for anything right now. So if it's something where people could come together, even if it doesn't have to be late, if it could be early, like on a weekend or something, half an hour, everybody's time to go through names for a nomination, because like I said, in the meantime, I'll be getting in contact with Irene and Becky, and we can start making connections with Ben at Pushkin to try to get that date. Number one is to make sure that date is available. That's what I'm gonna jump on tomorrow. And basically, I know that he offers deals as far as for nonprofit, and because it's the HRC, and try to get that on the price and as far as a menu and try to get like a like the plan or the schedule for for what that date could be. Yes, it would be it would be October. Hold on. Why am I still in October? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It would be December 10th.
Well, that's the date of the event, but we're looking at a meeting for all of us to go through nominations and criteria.
Is that the date that Becky had? I'm sorry. Is that the date that Becky wanted? Was it the date of the event or the date of the meeting?
Thank you. Yeah, it was the date of the event. Thank you.
The date of the event would be Saturday the 10th. Yeah. So with Aaron's input, we now have to figure out. And again, if this is
let's go back to Philippe and find out when he's available, since he's the one that seemed to have a conflict, and see if we can work around his schedule.
Okay, so Philippe, if you're with us, what would work for you? It's if you're 10 to 6 every day, weekdays, what might you suggest in terms of a possible date and time?
Did you mention Monday at 6?
We talked about Monday the 28th, but the problem that Aaron brought up is that that's the first of the mayor's community conversations. And some of us might want to be present for that as well, starting at.
They would probably not have the Zoom link. They'll probably take the Zoom link for that meeting.
Right. Well, there's more than one, but for sure, if people want to be in on that, that would be a definite conflict. So we'd also suggested, can we take a half an hour on a weekend? I don't know if that's pushing too much on people's personal time, but it might.
A lot of times I'd get jobs on the weekend from either bands or film making jobs, and they come kind of at the last minute a lot of times. Mm-hmm. So I hesitate to commit, but it doesn't sound like a half an hour on a weekend would be too much. All I have to do is come in here and access the Zoom meeting.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sunday.
Please not too early.
I think when you had mentioned maybe sometime later in the afternoon on Sunday, but before dinner, maybe 4 o'clock or something like that. Is that something that could work?
Yes.
Okay, you're in. Anyone who cannot do 4 o'clock on Sunday, we'll call it the 27th. That would be the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Is everyone available? Because we're going to try to do this with everyone.
Yes, I'm available.
Okay. Irene, can you manage that?
I'm trying. I'm trying to wrap my mind around that.
I know. Thankfully, it's a fairly interesting and not complicated. At least it looks that way to me. Giving out awards would be a fun thing. So I'm not hearing objections. Like, we got to wrap our minds around it, but we can do it. 4 o'clock Sunday, the 27th. All right, so we're going to make that. We're going to work to make that happen. Everyone's available. So you folks on this little grouping, I'm not going to call you a subcommittee because that is subject to all kinds of other complications, but you're a grouping that wants to make this happen, not a subcommittee of the HRC. And so you're not subject to open meeting laws and all that kind of stuff. So if you all can meet before that and then bring it to us on the 27th, we'll go hopefully half an hour, maybe 40 minutes max. So please put that in your calendars, and I'll confirm that as soon as I get a Zoom link from Caitlin von Schmidt. Yeah, Empress.
I'm sorry. I was writing notes. What time was it again? You said at 4, the 27th?
4 o'clock on the 27th for half an hour to 40 minutes. We're really going to be.
Okay.
Make sure if you have a nomination that it be Greenfield resident or residents, and we'll work on the rest of it when we meet.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good with that. That sounds like a really great idea. And I see Wid putting something in chat. Oh my goodness, what is that, Wid? Oh my, wow, that's incredibly generous. Wow. Thank you for that. Okay. I'd like to try to finish. Last time we went way over, and I'd like to see if we can finish up these last few minutes on some of the other items, knowing that we have this to come back to. We left over from the last couple of meetings. There was a question on whether or not there's anything going on with regard to affordable housing and homelessness in Greenfield, and I think Empress, you were maybe going to have some information for us. Maybe you don't. But and we're going to be losing Irene in just a minute. So please, everyone else, stay on, or I have to abort the meeting. Yeah, Wid.
Do we need to approve the minutes before Irene goes? Did you already approve the minutes?
Oh, we did. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that was part of the logistics that we did in the beginning.
All right. Thanks.
Yep, unanimously. So, Empress, do you have any updates for us about what's happening with regard to homelessness and affordable housing and the challenges of wintertime? And is there anything new to
the only thing I know is that the CDBG, which is the Greenfield Committee on Economic Development, is having a public hearing this Thursday at 5 o'clock at City Hall. And basically, one of the topics will be using the CDBG funding for housing rehabilitation. So, but the meeting, as you know, the Housing Greenfield meeting is the same night as the Greenfield HRC meeting. So I really couldn't sit in on that meeting to find out more. But like I said, that is Thursday at 5 o'clock at City Hall.
Okay, and that's open to anyone who's interested in person?
Yes, because Susan sent it out, yes.
Excellent. All right, so for those folks who are interested in learning more and being involved in that, that sounds like an opportunity. I did come across something today that spoke to the fact that there may not be at this point any new spaces or slots available this winter, but I guess that more will come out at that meeting. I hope then is what I got as information. Philippe, do you have anything? This has been held over for several months now. Update on environmental justice and the nature gap. Have you had a conversation with Wendy over the last few months? And are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still with you.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering why my video is not working for some weird reason.
We lost you entirely for a moment, but you can speak to us if you've had a chance to do any follow-up with Wendy Goodman over the last few months while we've held this item over.
Yes, I spoke to Wendy at length, and she gave me a lot of, let me just take these headphones off. It's hard for me to talk when I hear an echo.
Yeah. Well, we
had a long conversation about what she's been doing with that, who she's been meeting with, and we both concluded pretty much the place to pick this up would be to bring something like this to a number of agencies, to not just stick this on the town, but to actually approach the state, who would have the kind of funding that would make something like this, an improved access for all people, something of a reality. I think it's a very expensive project. is something that is being done kind of after the fact, in my historical sense. I pretty much have seen the process of colonization and genocide and slavery as a way, as you know, that whole history during that whole period was a method of alienating people from the land. And a lot about the roots of our culture and our society here have a lot to do with alienating people from the land. Either the reduction of public property versus the expansion of private property has made it almost impossible for people to live in a free, natural way. So there's that to contend with. Since we do live in this society and it is structured that way, I think, you know, trying to get the money that we need from different agencies to improve that access is key, as well as there's some discussion going on with some of the other regional watershed organizations, and I plan on contacting them because that's the type of thing that I think a lot of us share. And I'll just end by saying a quote from one of my favorite Native American spiritualists, Red Crow, and he said that in 1492 there was just about every river that was moving you could drink out of on this continent, and that's just not true now, and that's something that we need as a human right again. Thank you.
Philippe, it's great to hear your passion and your commitment to picking this up. My concern was that Wendy was really the mobilizer for us last year. And if you're able to begin to generate some thoughts on this and make some connections, we can certainly follow up next month or in January and see what we might be able to do to mobilize other organizations to take some action with us on it.
That's is my next step.
Okay, so how about
what I'd like to also do would be to create a document that lists all of those groups that I'm going to contact and a little bit of a summary of what I think we can do to move forward, and welcome the commission to participate in that as well.
That's wonderful. And so we'll come back to this at our regular meeting, which is next December 12th. If that's okay with you, if you can take a month maybe to do a little bit of research and thinking about this, we'll put this on the agenda for next month, and maybe you can get a few of us to engage. I see Aaron's hand and also Wid's hand. So Aaron?
And can I just follow up on something about the December 10th event? I have 40 years of music experience, and I have a lot of people that I know in the area. If you're interested in any kind of a band or having just some kind of a loose jam session, perhaps some African style drumming or something. And I can also help with the publicity of this.
Felipe, you read my mind. Felipe read my mind. He already knows what I'm thinking. He knows what I'm thinking. If I could
get my camera on, you would see me smiling right now.
Yes, I can imagine.
We have been waiting for an opportunity to do this. This is a great opportunity.
Absolutely. I would never have thought of the Pushkin. Is that Ben and Steve and Jeremy?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
I have to keep remembering that they want to help.
Yes, they do.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Okay. Well, just moving along a little further because it's 8:04. Aaron and then Wid. Aaron?
Going back quickly to the issue of the unhoused, I know we discussed last meeting that ServiceNet was continuing its contract through the winter, but then would not be continuing it. We now know that CSO will be the new contractor with the state come the spring.
And they'll pick it up in 23.
Yes.
Excellent. So there'll be a sense of continuity without a gap. Thank you. I think that is what crossed my computer today, and I couldn't remember the details. So good to know that there'll be continuity moving forward, and that they'll be picking it up fully in the spring. Wid?
Going back to the environmental justice thing, we did get buy-in from 3 Greenfield agencies though, so we want to forget about them. We had, the planning person, we had the recreation person, and we had the economic person. So those were all people who bought into what we were trying to do. So we don't want to drop them off the plate as we move forward.
Excellent. Yes, I know MJ Adams and Christy Moore in particular, and I can't remember the third person, but we have notes from that. And of course, you assisted Wendy at that meeting in a very strong way with Aaron right by your side. So hopefully we can pick up on that. And if you want to, maybe you could get resend those minutes or the notes from that meeting over to Philippe, if that's a possibility, because he wasn't on the he wasn't on the commission at that point. Okay, well, this has been a very engaging meeting. We've really moved ahead on a number of initiatives. And I appreciate everyone's attention and focus in moving us ahead. Wait, is that a hand that's up, or is that you looking at your watch?
I see we're not going to get to the police chief. Did you talk about that earlier when I was not here?
We did not.
Okay. I just want to mention that I went, I said to the deputy chief, hey, who's the guy with the beard over there? He said, oh, that's the chief. I didn't recognize him because he had a ball cap on and stuff. So, I went over there and talked to him and said, hey, chief, and I had this conversation with him. So, he's very personable. He's very amenable to talking. He understands we're doing our job. He understands it's going to be uncomfortable. He understands all that stuff. So I felt like for the last 6 or 7 months, I felt like I was probably a thorn in his side. So it felt kind of good just being able to have a nice conversation with him over a thing of popcorn. And so it felt good to know that we're all trying to do the best we can.
That's wonderful. And that was at the movie then, at the Till film that you got to talk with him? Yeah. Well, that's I'm really glad that people are having different contact points and getting to know, him and just find ways to have civil conversations. I think that's really, really important. Okay, well, I think we're at a point of closure. And just to say that I will be in touch with folks, I hope sometime tomorrow, as soon as I get the go-ahead from Caitlin for our meeting.
I'm sorry, I get distracted. I have a new business issue.
You have a new business issue. Okay,
yes.
Go ahead with it, please.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me just access the email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Al Norman contacted me and sent me this email, and he, as I mentioned to you, he was at the movie Till. I would like the HRC to continue, this is a quote from the email, I would like the HRC to continue getting actively involved in promoting the following 2 local issues that I see as civil rights discussions. Mm-hmm. 1, stopping the practice of, quote, home equity theft in Greenfield. And 2, protecting every citizen's right to petition government through a fair citizen referendum and initiative process / voter suppression. So this is the information I'm passing along. It does not come from me. It comes from a member of the community who knows that I do this.
I think it's great. I'm looking at the note that you sent me about that. And my hope would be that if we get this on the agenda for December 12th, since you have a connection with Al, that maybe you invite him to the meeting to join us.
Yep, I was intending to. Yep.
Yeah, I think there's a process, Philippe, of education for us so that we can learn what is going on with those, what's the history, the content, and the context. We would need to have that information so that we can know how to move it forward. And I'm happy to put those 2 items on, as I mentioned to you last week, into the agenda for December. And it always makes sense, just with like when Glenn was on earlier today at this meeting to talk about the Lunt issue, it would be very helpful to have Al Norman talk about this because he's very well steeped in it and can really help us to think through what we can be doing on it and how we should be, really thinking about the issues. So I'll do that to get that on the December 12th agenda, and I hope you can help to bring him onto it with us.
Yep, he will be available for that.
Excellent. Okay, so Whit, I saw a hand up and then I saw a hand go
We
down.
can wait till next month. I'm just a little concerned about the voting issue with Al because that was already settled by referendum. So I'm a little bit hesitant of the HRC to get involved in a political issue that has already pretty much been solved. And I just, that's just my concern about that issue. The housing issue, we can certainly talk about, but the voting issue, that's already been settled. I'm not sure if it's the HRC's place to get involved in town politics.
I would see it as just an education information issue, Whit. I don't think we have to necessarily weigh in on it as much as learn in case this kind of thing does come up. We can at least just have an awareness of it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's actionable, but more we should have an idea of what did happen. I'm not sure that everyone is clued in on that. So I would rather see that as information sharing and catching us up to date rather than our taking action necessarily. Okay, any other last minute thoughts, responses, reactions? It's been a pretty free-flowing conversation. And if not, we can entertain a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Okay. We've got 5 of us on. So in terms of the commissioners, Mackenzie, do you vote to adjourn?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. Empress, do you vote to adjourn? Do we lose Empress?
It looks like her camera froze.
You think
like
she's
mine.
frozen?
Okay.
My camera
Whit,
froze too.
I vote yes.
And Philippe?
Yes.
Okay. And I also vote to allow us to adjourn. So we are a majority of the quorum, and so we can consider this meeting adjourned.